Welcome to Talksicology, brought to you by Recovery Unplugged, the place where we talk about all things substance abuse, recovery, and mental health, with guests offering varying perspectives and viewpoints. Hosts Joseph Gordo and Jason Cabello share about their addiction and recovery and other serious subject matter through lighthearted yet candid conversation.
I don't want any conflict today. Just go ahead and take it, please. I'm tired.
Welcome to Talksicology. My name is Joseph Gordo. I'm your host, and this is I co-host with the most, Mr. Jason Cabello. Welcome to the latest and greatest podcast on the internet about recovery, mental health, and addiction.
We're on the internet?
Yeah, I mean, well,
shit.
At this point, the internet is everything, right? Like, remember when you used to go, you'd be like, oh, I'm going on the web, you guys.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you're just on
Everything is the
it's
web.
everything.
Yeah, you turn on your phone. It's you don't even have to turn your phone on. It's already on. You're getting notifications constantly
All the time.
from the web.
Yeah, it's kind of bonkers.
It is.
If you really think about it.
Do you embrace technology?
I do, but I have a love-hate relationship with it.
Yeah.
I like gadgets. I like gizmos. I like
gadgets,
little
gizmos.
techie things. But I also am at times disgusted with the amount of, just like all the information they have on us and how willingly I turn it over.
So had I not, completely fucked my life up and like lost everything, I'd probably be still into like vintage synthesizers, vinyl records.
Yes.
But I lost all that shit, so it's like I can't, I can't go back and get the record collection that I had because I mean it probably could have filled half this wall, but it's all gone.
We've never talked about the record collection I inherited from my father, who he's still alive, so I don't know if it's still an inheritance, but I got his records and when I was a kid, and he had a lot of stuff, very wide variety of music from, Cheech and Chong and Monty Python albums to Thriller, Robert Frampton,
Peter Frampton.
Peter Frampton.
Yeah.
Robert Frampton?
Robert Palmer, Peter Frampton.
Peter Frampton Comes Alive. That was
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, he had this great record. He had like first pressing Bob Marley songs, all records, all kinds of cool stuff. And I found the one place in San Antonio, Texas that would buy used vinyl and sold so much of it.
Yeah. Well, like you, I inherited, and my parents were in the music business, so I mean, their record collection was vast, and I did sell a lot of the records, but my ex-wife took everything.
Wait. Ex-wife?
Yeah, I don't talk about it much.
This is the first time in fucking 5 years that I've known you.
Yeah, I mean,
Ladies and gentlemen, Jason Cabello was married at
yeah,
one point.
it wasn't. I don't think it should have been legally bound, judging on how fucked up I was at the time.
How long were you
married? We'll just leave it at that. We weren't married for very long. We got married. I painted myself into a corner and everything just went to shit. And it was just, it just wasn't a good situation all
this
around.
This is like the vaguest, most politician Jason Cabello response
well,
ever.
It is just because it was, I did shitty things and I was nowhere near in a place to make any kind of decision, like a long-term decision like that, to bring somebody else into it. And it just was like, it's
wild.
Yeah,
I just
what's funny too, and this is a good thing about recovery, because at one point that was a huge part of my story and like what I held on to, and now it's just like know somebody for 5 years and we fucking hang out and we have a podcast together, and if you didn't know, then it's clearly something that that I've moved past, and hope she's doing well, and that's it.
That's wild.
Yeah, and I don't have any records anymore, so
Okay, Jason, no wife, no records, but you do have sponsees.
Oh, Jesus, yeah.
How are the sponsees?
I wasn't even going to say sponsees. I was just going to say somebody who I'm trying to help.
And for our for Susan or whatever her name is out in Ohio, a sponsee is a term used in 12-step fellowships for when someone who has been sober and worked a program for a while starts to walk another person through the steps.
Yeah. So somebody who I've been trying to help for a little while. I've known him for a couple of years, and we were friends first, and then took on the sponsor relationship. And much like I was for many, many years, just can't stay clean. And it's like, it's so hard when you get to that point where you're like, I understand, like I don't judge you, but like I can't co-sign your bullshit because it's to the point where he wants to like use me as kind of an alibi, and his family's gotten involved with me. Like some of his family members will call, and I'm not going to call them and be like, hey, look, he relapsed again. Like that's not my job.
Yeah.
My job, and I tell him like, so there's a couple things that I will not do with the sponsee. I'm like, you can't call me for a place to stay if you fuck up. You can't ask me for money, and you can't use me as an alibi. I'm here to help you to try to, if like you get kicked out of where you're at and you need a ride to go to treatment or something like that, call me for that.
You need a burger.
Yeah. I'll take you grocery shopping. Don't ask me, but you know what I mean? If I know that you don't have any food in your fridge or something, I'll most likely do it. And and it gets hard because you have to let somebody kind of find their way, and sometimes it's you have to just they have to want it, and they have to work for it, and they have to chase it like they chase, and it's just like the one bad decision that like could just ruin everything. And it's he's like, I don't want to lose everything, and I'm like, so I understand what everything is to you right now. But let's fast forward to Carlo with 5 years clean. Yeah. And you look back at what losing everything looks like right now. Living in a halfway house, taking a bus to a job that you don't care about, that, it's paying the bills, but, it's not a career that you love. It's not something that you really, I would, and he's like, what do you suggest? I'm like, find a long-term place to go to. Maybe like a Salvation Army or something. And the best I could do right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. We talk about something called loving detachment, right? Where like it's like, I love you, but you gotta kind of go do your thing, and I'm here when you're ready.
Right.
And even as a clinician and someone who's worked in treatment for almost 15 years at this point, like it's very easy to give that advice, but practicing it is still always a challenge.
Right.
Whether it's family members, sponsees, all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, but you know what it does do is it does
keeps you sober.
It makes me grateful that I'm clean, and I'm like, because I know that feeling. I know, and it's like a pattern with him. So it's like I couldn't, because I tried to call him after I went to a meeting last night, and phone rang and then went to voicemail. So I know I got the fuck you button, and that's not what he would do ever.
Yeah.
And I just like I told Gabby, I'm like, I think he's out there.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm sorry. I'm like, yeah. What are you gonna do? So it's tough, but you got to let somebody find their way. And I woke up clean.
Yeah.
And I know that's waiting for me out there every single day, and it's an option for me. Like I could go and feel that way right now.
Yeah.
Maybe not right now. I could go feel however I'm going to feel for a couple of days, and then I'll be able to feel that like I'm about to lose everything. Because that's relative. Everything is relative, And my losing everything is worth a little bit more than a bad decision. Like your favorite, I'm going to play the tape all the way through, and I know that's not going to be good.
In the words of the great Lauryn Hill, everything is everything. It's relative, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, should we get to our guest?
I think I want to, before we get to the guest,
real quick,
David Crosby.
Yeah.
David Crosby. Night. One of the first people who I knew their name, before.
You ever met him?
No, but I think my mom might have. I'm pretty sure my mom has. But one of the first people that I heard was sober. And I'm like, what is that?
Oh, he was in the program? He was sober?
Shit,
I had no idea.
Yeah.
No.
There's a great Simpsons episode where, the lawyer Lionel Hutz It was played by Phil Hartman. He's in like the courtroom,
yeah.
and somebody starts talking about whiskey. And then he runs to the payphone and he calls, and it's his sponsor, and it's David Crosby. And he picks up the phone. He's like, "I love you, man." And then he comes later, and Barney, the drunk.
Yeah.
He was like, "David Crosby, you're my hero." And he's like, "Oh, you like my music?" And he's like, "You're a musician." But yeah, David Crosby has he was a self-proclaimed speedball freak.
Speedball freak.
Yeah, as I was, and yeah, he was.
What do you consider a speedball to be?
Crack and heroin was what I used, but it's cocaine and heroin.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my cocktail. Anyway, speaking of crack and heroin.
On that positive note, speaking of crack, no, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll find out.
We're gonna find out.
Okay.
So today's guest, I'm actually really excited for today's guest because so often we have people on where it's like, hey, I've known you for a while, and I don't know anything about your story. And this is a person I've actually known for I guess like 13, 14 years, and got to be present and witness certain parts. Sometimes closer or further away, but someone who I'm very happy is coming on today and is in the place that they are today in their lives.
Can't wait.
And I've been trying to get her on the show for months,
I know,
but she's super busy, right? Because she is a therapist, a person in recovery. She is an advocate for mental health and eating disorders. She is involved in that community. And what else? And her name is Nicky DuBois. Hey, Nicky, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
It's nice meeting you as well.
How long have we actually known each other? It's like 14, 13, 14,
And
somewhere in there?
2008 is when we met.
2008. Oh my
Wow.
God.
Were you part of the Kerrville
I
sober
was.
crew?
His
okay.
wife was my first sponsor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was back when Chelsea didn't drink.
Yeah, I was 21. No, I was 20. I was
Yeah.
20 when I first got sober.
Before you got here, me and Jason were talking, and I was like, "Oh yeah, our guest today is this woman, Nicky DuBois." And I was like, it was weird even referring to you as a woman.
Woman, yeah.
Because I was like, when I met Nicky,
Because we're both little niños.
Yes.
no, I mean, for perspective, I guess New Year's 2008 going into 2009, Nicky was in the sober house my wife was running. And was on punishment. She was not allowed to go out.
What'd
on
you do?
New Year's.
I just wasn't the best on my best behavior at all
Okay.
times. Yeah.
So we
I
had
was 20.
So we spent New Year's at the sober house babysitting, and there was another girl too.
Yeah.
And I think we watched horror movies, and that was it. That was New Year's.
Haley.
Haley.
Yeah.
Yes. Wait, Haley B.
I don't. She's sober in San Antonio now. She's an LCDC.
Yes, Haley B. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. I saw her at a conference recently, and I was like, "Holy shit,
It's wild.
you're not dead."
We need to do a documentary piece, take you back to Kerrville and film your whole this is where I first this was my first job here after I got sober, and this is where my sober living house or not.
Yeah. I think you might also be the first guest that I've ever met their mom.
I joke about my therapist friends when I'm like, when you meet my mom, it will just all fall into place. You'll be like, yes, I understand. Such a wonderful woman. I love my mom.
Yeah,
And
her mom's great. But yeah, so let's start at the beginning. Do you have any former marriages that we don't know about?
I don't. No. Never been married, y'all. Yeah. I've made it to 34 without getting married.
You know what? I don't really think I was. I think I might have imagined some of it. It's just such a blur and so far back. We'll just Anyway, moving forward.
But I guess one thing that I love about your story is that there were all these starts and stops, and it it wasn't easy for a long time. But at least from me outside looking in, I never saw a moment where you kind of stopped trying to get better in some way.
Yeah.
But I don't need to tell your story. Let's
Yeah. Joseph, why don't you tell
what
that
am I
story
doing?
for us?
I don't know. It's weird for me. I don't know why. Nikki's got me nervous.
I know you're like
known each other
palms are
for
all
so
sweaty.
long.
Yeah.
He's never been nervous before.
We've known each other for so long.
And like back in the day, I mean, like I was driving like a 1996 Chevy Cavalier.
Listen to Kid Rock.
Listening to Kid Rock. No, probably not. I was real into, what was I into back then? Oh, that was back when the Lil Wayne mixtapes were still just like crushing.
Fire.
it.
Yeah.
And like I worked at a Denny's, you know.
I never even had to apply for that job, which is so funny.
You just walked in and there were
The owner or the manager was Iranian, and I'm Iranian, and I was there a lot because I didn't have a lot going on in my life then, so I hung out at Denny's.
Yeah.
So it's like you want a job.
Yeah,
You're like, okay.
yeah. I was like, okay, yeah, sure.
So
I'll have 3 jobs.
So growing up, we already said, you have a great relationship with your mom today.
Yeah.
You love your mom. She's a wonderful woman.
Yeah.
Like, but what was life like growing up? I mean, you're Iranian and your mom is Scottish?
No, she has an English
British.
accent because she learned English in England.
That's
She went to
why.
boarding
Okay.
school. Yeah, she's from Iran.
Yeah. I remember
my
being
dad.
real thrown off. by
Yeah,
that
people are like, "Oh, what?" And I'm like, "Yeah." My dad's American. Growing up, I don't speak Farsi. The rest of my family does. So I always kind of felt othered, which I think like has been like just a theme that I've felt in my life.
Yeah.
And it played into substance use and my eating disorder of just not feeling like I fit in. I moved from Austin to New Braunfels in 2nd grade, which was culture shock for me. I remember being like, oh, what's country? I had no idea what country music was. Yeah. I listened to classic rock only. I mean, that's not the only culture shock, but
You don't meet many people from Austin.
I know. I'm a unicorn. Yeah. Yeah. When I tell people that, they're like, oh, what high school did you go to? And I have to do this like weird backtrack. I'm like, well, I was born here, but I moved.
Me too.
Yeah.
So me and Chelsea were both born in Austin, but like Chelsea went to school here and I did not.
I know.
And Chelsea's like, don't fucking tell people that.
Yeah, I know. It's real weird when I meet someone who's actually from Austin. I'm like, shit, I didn't go to high school here.
Yeah, that happens. I'm from Chicago, and like I will meet people all the time, and they're like, "Yeah, Chicago." Like, oh, where in Chicago are you from? Well, I'm actually from Gary, Indiana.
But I ate a lot of pizza growing up.
Right.
So going from Austin, going to New Braunfels, I mean, do you, talking about that othered thing, so did that even make it like you were the city girl in the country?
I don't know if I felt that, but I remember when we joined, my elementary was small, when we joined with our intermediate school, it was all the other elementaries. I remember all of the popular girls, this is so weird, I'm not that dark skinned, but I remember all of them were really pale and had colored eyes. Yeah. And I just remember like, this is obviously my eating disorder stuff coming up at a very young age, just comparing myself to all these other people around me. Yeah. And I remember wanting to bleach my skin. Oh. And that even came even further after 9/11. I was like, I really don't want to be associated with being Middle Eastern.
And I could imagine like seeing like Barbies and dolls and things like that, all with the blonde hair and blue eyes.
So much
just
inclusivity now that we didn't have growing up.
Well, you know what's funny though is like we hear, because I was actually at Target the other day and Disney just came out with a line of like Disney princess inspired teenager looking dolls, right? Like, so, and they're all different shades of the rainbow. And there was a group of people saying, they're like, why did they do that to Belle? And they were talking like, not super negative, but a little negative.
Yeah.
And like, why do they have to do that? Like, why are they trying to be so woke or whatever? Yeah. And it's like, because there's little girls.
Yeah, yeah. I got to be Jasmine, thankfully.
Yeah, Jasmine.
I'm not Arabian, but I was like, well, it's a close enough princess.
Yeah. We know who you're playing in the school play.
Yeah.
So moving was hard. I didn't think it would be, but looking back, I'm like, yeah, that was really a pivotal point in my life at 2nd grade. I remember focusing on my body a lot in 2nd grade. And I even found this little thing a little booklet that we had to do in 2nd grade. And it asked us to say like what our favorite thing was about ourselves. And I said my face and my clothes. I was like, oh, good. This has been a constant in my life. Yeah. But it said my least favorite thing was my body.
Yeah.
In 2nd grade. Oh. It's so sad. And no one even like that would have been a red flag. Like, to me, it's a huge red flag that got missed by all the teachers that saw it, my parents that saw it.
Yeah.
No one put me in therapy or like talked to me about it or did anything.
They just gave you a B.
Like, oh, that is, sad. B.
So it seems like the body issues, the body image stuff came even before the substance abuse. Was probably like maybe the inception points of all the issues that came after.
Yes.
Do you now, where did that come from though? Like, or I mean, obviously it's hard to say, right? But like, did that come internally? Was it like, Lil Billy in 3rd grade was like, "You're fat," and that was it, or like,
I don't know. I think I teach this, right? I work with adolescents, and so I talk to them, and a lot of them want to focus on where did this come from? Like, I want to know the focal point of when it started, and it's not possible to find out. And so when I think about it, looking back, I'm like, well, I was a very sensitive kid. I feel emotions really strongly, and I think that I was new in a school, and it just was a thing that happened where I started like comparing myself. We do that, but I hyper fixated on like what the differences were about me. And those became things that I continued to focus on as I continued to grow. And kids are mean. I was not in a larger body as a kid, but people will make jokes and comments. And, those tended to stick with me more than I think they probably stuck with other kids. Yeah.
For sure. So one thing I recently talked about actually with the sponsee, I have a sponsee, with the sponsee was like, mental health issues and substance abuse issues like are issues that will get addressed whether you're trying to or not, either in healthy or unhealthy ways, right?
Yeah.
So looking back at that, starting in 2nd grade, right? How do you think they first started to get addressed? Like, how did you first start kind of coping with that?
Avoidance. My parents, they have a great relationship now, but it was very tumultuous growing up. And I used to hide in my closet when they'd fight and read books. So I was trying to find ways to escape at an early age, and reading was my first escape. I also, Middle Eastern culture, if you don't get seconds on a meal, then there's something wrong. Like, you're offending them because the food wasn't good.
Really?
Yeah. Or
I like this.
Yeah. Or you're sick. There's something wrong.
Yeah.
So at an early age, I was taught not to listen to my hunger and fullness cues because I was going to offend my relatives by not getting food. I also must have discovered that food was a way that made me feel better. So I would eat additionally when I was, feeling scared or feeling upset. And that just continued to progress. I had a friend who, this is wild, who taught me how to purge, which I didn't know that was at 15. And that's really when my eating disorder like fully kicked off. Before it was, I would like track, it's sad, I look at these journals back in the day and I was like looking through for like some gold material of like, oh, this is such like a teenage moment of me being like, oh, I hate my parents. But I looked back in them and they were like, I walked extra today, or I ate really well today. And I was like,
not like
sad.
Today Billy smiled at me.
No, it was me tracking my
food journal.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
We were talking about like technology and how like I love technology, but also grosses me out.
Yeah.
Like, but think about it, like you talk about being a little girl and tracking, your exercise and your calories, but now that is the norm, right? Like if I work out and for some reason can't log it in my tracker, it's like therapy, right? Like if you didn't write a note, it didn't happen, right? Like if when I was like real into running, like if I didn't have my Apple Watch 24/7 to track every single fucking step,
Yeah.
But like, this like hyper focus on doing and being and producing. Anyway, sorry, total aside.
No, it is. My niece got a Fitbit for Christmas one year, and I really was trying to push back against it because eating disorders tend to run in families.
How old was
she was 11 at the time.
Yeah. And you're like, listen, y'all, this is what I do.
I know. I'm like, please don't do this. So I tried. They were going to do it. So I tried to find, I found the kid version, which is a little less diety, I think. And it still tracks the steps. Like, that's the purpose of it, right? And it's sad that we've gotten to a place where play is not intuitive and it's not fun. It's like, no, you have to walk a certain amount of steps. Like that is something that you have to do as a kid. And even my nephew, he's 9 now, he even talks about like, oh, I didn't get my steps in. And I'm like, why? Why is that? Can we go play outside? Why have we as a society moved to like, we need to track these things in kids? Because then it goes into adulthood, right? Of like this message of like, I have to do this amount of fitness and working out to be like a good person.
It's really good for self-depreciation and imposter syndrome.
Is it?
Just wonders for my mental health. So eating disorder really kicks off high school when your friend teaches you.
Yeah,
how to
it was her
purge.
birthday, and we went to Macaroni Grill, and which later in life, when I went to Eating Disorder Treatment Center, I told them this, and one of the outings that we had to go to was Macaroni Grill, and I was like, "Oh, this
Full
is
circle.
tragic." Yeah.
Did they do that on purpose?
I think
we're
that it
fucking with Nicky
was
today?
already something that they had done in their rotation, and it was just perfect exposure for me to go back to that place. We had her birthday dinner, and then she, as kids, like, let's go to the bathroom. So we went to the bathroom, and she was like, I'm going to purge, or I'm going to throw up. And I was like, I don't, why?
Yeah.
And she told me that she eats and then throws up. And she actually doesn't struggle with an eating disorder anymore. I think it didn't grasp her as it grasped me. So I started doing that at 15, and I wasn't very good at hiding it. But my parents didn't really notice, I guess. And for a while, that really stuck with me. And I had a lot of resentments. Like, why didn't y'all notice?
Yeah,
Why
It's
didn't y'all?
clearly a cry for help.
Yeah,
And
like I was not very good at cleaning up. And so it's just like, y'all had to have noticed. And I don't think they actually did. I think that parents tend to be, want to assume the best. And no one wants to assume that their kid has an eating disorder or substance use, because I struggled with substance use and they didn't really notice either.
I mean, as a parent now, like when my kids get in trouble or we catch them doing something like I always want to think the best, and I always find myself trying to make like justifications for them. And Chelsea is much more of like, no, he's fucking stupid. But I just, so I get it if they did see some signs and kind of were like, oh no.
Yeah.
So who was the first adult that you remember noticed or said something to you or voiced concern?
About the eating disorder, it was when I was in college, when I was already sober.
Wow.
Yeah. I was at Texas Tech for their sober program, and her name is Michelle, and I let her know how much I appreciate her now, but then I hated her. I was so mad. I had dropped a lot of weight from my eating disorder after Kerrville, and I got complimented a lot for it. People didn't know that I had an eating
felt good.
disorder.
You're looking good.
Yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, like doctors, like my friends, guys were paying more attention to me that weren't previously. And we were eating, and it was all sober people, and I was like picking apart my meal, and I saw her look at me, and that was like the moment I was like, oh God.
Were you doing
she
that
knows.
thing where like you pick it apart so it looks like you ate more than you actually did?
I think I was like trying to take off like certain items that I felt were like unhealthy and so I was like taking off, I don't even remember what the meal was. I know it was a sandwich. So I was just picking it apart to like eat the parts that I felt were healthy for me.
But so she locks eyes with you.
Yeah, and my heart dropped because I knew that she was in recovery for an eating disorder. And I was like, oh, fuck, she knows. And she came up and talked to me, and it was just a substance use. I guess we had some people with self-harm recovery program, and they were starting an eating disorder group within it, and I had to join it at that point, and I was so angry.
You got voluntold?
Yeah, because I wasn't with my substance use pals anymore, and we used to make fun of eating disorders because we didn't really understand it, because we were like, yeah, we're here for drugs and alcohol.
But so when you were making fun of the eating disorders, did you know in the back of your head that you had one, or were you in some kind of denial around it?
I was in denial. I thought it was like something that people just did. And the things that I was doing at that point were like what I think the sober community kind of tends to do. Like I was exercising, and I was, eating smaller portions and trying to be really healthy.
Trying to hit your water goal.
Yeah. So I felt like these were things that were promoted. And I think a lot of people with substance use have disordered eating, if not full-blown eating disorders. So,
Oh man, body dysmorphia with the dudes.
I'm the worst.
yeah, it's yeah.
Well, so we kind of skipped ahead a little bit.
Yeah, we totally
But, you know, so when did substances first enter the picture in a problematic way?
I started using when I was 16. I remember the person that I first used with, she was really into like taking people on their first journey. And so she would clip people's hair. This is so weird. I don't know if this is going to make the podcast, but she would clip their hair, and she had these Ziploc bags on her wall of like people's hair that she had like gotten high with for the first time. And that's so bizarre. I know.
How's she doing now?
Yeah, it's hard to find her. I don't know what she's up to. I know she's a kid now, so I don't know. So when I started at 16, and it didn't get like super problematic until college. I was a freshman in college.
So a lot of people experiment in high school. A lot of people experiment in college. A lot of people party too much in college.
Yeah.
There are a lot of folks who like absolutely meet criteria for substance use disorders that like they graduate and they're like, oh, well, done with that part of my life. Time to grow up.
Yeah.
And they just kind of, Now you were not that. So when did you realize that you were not that?
I was enrolled in school, but I was not going at all. I was selling plasma to like get drugs, which I would ride my bike to the plasma place. I don't know why. I think because I was like, oh, I'm healthy.
Yeah.
And then I would come home, and there were sometimes where I just pass out because I shouldn't
Gave up all
have been
your-
doing.
You should be doing that kind of exercise,
Exactly.
right?
But I was doing it for alcohol and drug money.
Coke's expensive.
More so now, but yeah, this was 2006, so it was
Just
a
the
little
amount of
bit
coke you
different.
need to get through a day.
For sure.
It's just much more than,
Yeah.
let's say, heroin.
And I realized, I thought, because I always had people around me partying, so I didn't think it was an issue. And then I got academic probation, then suspension. And I was like, how are my friends how are they doing okay? And somebody reflected to me, they're like, well, you are partying every night. You think that other people are doing it with you, that you're like, oh, it's okay. But you're not noticing that it's different people. It's not the same people every night, but it's you that's the same every night. And I was like,
You've got 7 groups of friends for each night of the week.
yeah, they're like, we are still going to class and we're still doing our things. And I was like, oh.
Jason, do you ever sell plasma?
No, I never sold plasma.
Yeah. So
Yet.
for our viewers who don't know, selling plasma is a very common way to fund drug addictions. And it's really funny because you get bonuses for things at the plasma place.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like if you can only go 3 times a week, but if you hit all 3, you get a little extra.
Yeah. And you get put into a raffle. I won an iPod shuffle.
Yeah.
Yeah. I won an iPod mini as well. It was
There's like a birthday bonus if you go to give plasma on your birthday. They give you like an extra $40. Like,
I might go now.
My parents were so upset. They were like, if you need money, please just ask us. Don't do that. And I was like,
so you're failing out of school. You're on academic probation. Is that the point where it's like, okay, maybe Nikki needs to go to rehab, or kind of what got us there?
I got suspended. I had to do a semester at home, a long semester is what Texas State told me. So then I went back, and I got into a legal issue, an altercation, and I was looking at, going to prison, and my option was to go to treatment or to go to prison. And so I chose to go to treatment, but it was a hard decision.
Yeah.
I actually asked them, like, well, how long would I be in jail? And they were like, oh, no, you're going to prison.
Prison, not jail.
And I was like, ah.
Are you cool with talking about the altercation?
Yeah, I was living in a place where I'd gotten multiple noise complaints for partying. And I had been told if I got one more noise complaint that I was going to be evicted.
Were you like a woo girl? Like, woo!
I was a girl who liked the party, and so I wanted everyone to be around me. I
Okay,
wanted
so
to
you would have
always
people
have
over all the
parties.
time, and
Yes.
it wasn't just you
Yeah.
isolating and yelling. Okay.
Yeah. Just me and my woo. They're like, wow, just one person noise complaint. So this last time the cops were called. I was in a blackout and I didn't want to get another noise complaint. And so I refused to let the cops in, and they came in through the back door that I forgot to lock.
Did you fight with the cops?
I did. I resisted arrest. So, yes.
Something about college girls always feel like they can fight the cops.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't fight cops, even if you don't know they're cops.
Yeah, don't do it. Not a good. It saved my life, but like also don't do it, y'all. So that is when my parents were like, okay, yeah.
So this is about 2008.
This is 2008.
So when you went to
Yeah.
treatment, did you go in thinking like, okay, you know what, maybe I do have a problem, or was I'm just doing this thing
Absolutely
to get out of?
Yes, I was like, I don't want to go to prison, and I'm just doing this until I can get out and go back to school.
Did you go to Starlight or Laha?
I went to Starlight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which my fake cousin was actually there on the adolescent side, which was mind-boggling. I remember going to get my night meds and someone going, Nicky? And I was like, there's no way I know anyone in this hellhole. So I kept walking. They're like, Nicky. And I was like, looked over. I was like my first week. So, you're not fully like present in those moments. And I was like, oh my God. And I saw him and I was like, cool. Cool. Family situation here.
So you're at Starlight and basically, so you just had to go to treatment, right? They didn't require you to go to sober house and all that kind of stuff. So then how did that end up happening?
My counselor told my parents about enabling Steve.
Steve Marcy?
Yep.
Yeah.
My mom he called me a celestial fire, and my mom loves that. And she it gave her hope, when they were in such a dark place, my parents. And he told them that they needed to cut me off. And they did. They cut me off financially, which was tragic for me. I had never had to support myself before. And so they told
You're
me.
all out of plasma.
I know. There's not is there a plasma place?
I don't think there's a plasma.
Yeah, I don't think so in Kerrville. Also, I was asked not to sell plasma anymore.
That was another stipulation.
Yeah. So I got sent to a halfway house. That was the only thing that they would financially support. I went to Butterfly House, which ended up being a tragic situation with that halfway house.
Oh man, we could do a whole podcast about the Butterfly
tough.
House.
Yeah, and Phoenix House. Woof.
Yes.
Yeah, it was hard for sure.
Those are two of our sponsors, so keep it cool.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
So I did the halfway house it was supposed to be 3 months, but it got cut a little short because of, extenuating circumstances that were outside of my control. But I had to get a job and go to, the 90 meetings in 90 days. And I was just very angry. My nickname was Angry Nicky in Kerrville, which there was not another Nicky. So it was definitely not necessary to call me Angry Nicky. But I was really angry when I first got sober. I felt like I was treating myself as a victim of life circumstances, not like an active participant in my own life situation.
Yes.
It was
y'all did this to me.
Yeah, I just got dealt a shitty hand. It was not my fault. I did nothing to deserve this. Yeah.
So eventually you bought into recovery.
I did because I didn't want, my parents were like, if you're sober for a year and you maintain, and I had to have 3 part-time jobs just to pay for things. But they were like, if you can do this for a year, then we'll pay for you to go back to school. So I was like, okay, this isn't too terrible. I get to go back to school. But I didn't think recovery was going to be something long-term for me.
Yeah.
And ultimately it wasn't. I think I had 2 years and 9 months the first time that I attempted sobriety.
So one thing that I noticed very early when I first started a counseling career, right, was that when I had clients that had both an eating disorder and a substance abuse issue, it was like a whack-a-mole thing. They were either doing really good with their eating but abusing the shit out of alcohol and drugs, or vice versa. They were getting high, but their eating was fine. They weren't binging or purging or any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So is that kind of what happened with you? Is like,
yeah, my eating disorder like disappeared when I found my drug of choice and was partying. And then when I went to treatment, it just like magically reappeared again. Right. And we had like full access to food at our treatment center. There was like a little kitchen that we could just go into at any time. And I started binging at that point, and purging. So, and I think my roommate might have known at one point, but no one really said anything to me. I wasn't screened for an eating disorder. Like, I don't think any of that was on anyone's radar. Substance use recovery then.
Back in the day, substance abuse treatment was about alcohol and drugs.
Yeah.
Like, mental health was not even that much of a consideration unless you were like on heavy psych meds.
Yeah.
In some cases, alcohol or drugs. Because if you did drugs, some places would be like, well, you could drink because that wasn't your problem. I had a therapist who was a heroin addict, and every other weekend, if they were good, they would take him out to get beers.
Shut up.
I swear to God. Yeah.
Wow. That's wild.
So you're in recovery in that first big stint. You're at Texas Tech. You get called out for the eating disorder. So what ends up leading to the substance relapse? Is it that you got the eating disorder under control? And
So I was like killing it at Tech.
Were you up there with like Paul and Ashley and Colin?
Yeah, Ashley and I went together. Colin won a semester. Colin won a semester before us. Ashley and I went together. We did orientation together. We were good friends in Lubbock, not so much Kerrville. So I was asked to go to a dietitian and an eating disorder dietitian, and bless her heart, she didn't know what to do with me. I started in at like this, I don't want to use numbers, but I started at this weight and I kept steadily dropping. And she kept saying, well, if you lose any more weight, I'm going to have to recommend another level of care. And so I would go in and like try to like put things in my pocket to like make sure that I didn't, but I was still like losing weight. And she'd be like, well, we need to add to your meal plan. And so I'd be like, okay, I'll add like 5 almonds. So I was like very resistant. I didn't want to. I remember like I didn't want to gain weight. And I remember like all the compliments I got for losing weight. Like, why in God's name would I want to like discount all of that and then gain weight again? Yeah. So I was really against it, but I was doing so well in every other area of my life. I had a 4.0. I had perfect attendance. I had a boyfriend. Yeah, it wasn't a healthy relationship, but I had one. I had sponsees. I had 2 sponsees. I was working a program. Like, I just felt like I had it all.
And that's always a great way to justify unhealthy stuff, right? It's like, well, look, I'm doing good in A, B, C, and D. So like if E kind of sucks.
A little bit of E.
And I like had friends that weren't sober. And that's the thing that I was like, look, I'm not like y'all. Like I can go to bars and have friends that are outside of the program and I think I'm normal. And I was like, y'all have a hard time socializing outside of the sober community. And I don't struggle with that. I'm a very social person. So that was my thing. I was like, I think I was just really young and just my parents, I didn't party. I guess I did. I think I was trying to justify, like, I didn't party a lot in high school. I did, but not in the ways that my other friends did. So I was like,
enough in high school.
Right. Yeah. So I was like,
I never lived in my car. I never smoked crack.
I was like, well, this was just like me busting free and like trying to find my own identity. And so like this time will be different. And so I tried drinking and the bartender knew that I was sober because I'd go there and he wouldn't serve me.
That's great.
Yeah. I was actually the owner of this bar and I had to go get somebody else at the bar to serve me who didn't know me.
Wow. So now you were at Tech in the recovery program, which they have this cool thing where like people who are in recovery think you got to have at least 9 months. Like as long as you agree to participate in their studies in the center, you get free college. So were you jeopardizing?
Free college?
They do full rides now, but they didn't then. So I don't know how they determined like who got what amount, but I got like $5,000 a year.
Is there an age cap on that?
There's not.
No.
I'm going to go and sell some plasma and get a full ride scholarship once we're done.
No, it's actually an amazing program.
It really is. Yeah, it saved my life.
So was choosing to drink in any way jeopardizing
absolutely.
your college?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
100, all of it.
Yeah. I did it without them knowing. And I got someone told on me. It wasn't even me. I was going to pick up a dirty trip. Yeah. I had 2 years and 9 months, so I was planning on picking up a dirty 3-year trip because I didn't want to jeopardize my scholarship.
Yeah.
And it's funny when they told on me. Yeah, they told on me and I got brought into the office and they weren't concerned about my drinking. They were wanting to send me to eating disorder treatment. And I was like, whoa, what? And they were like, yeah, like you're not
Wait, what did you catch me for?
Yeah. I was like, what? And I was not doing well. I was blacking out when I'd stand up. I'd been into the hospital multiple times at this point. I was losing vision in my eye. Like when I was driving, I'd go like completely black. It was so terrifying. Hair was falling out. I didn't have my period. Like it was just not going well for me.
Basically, like if you'd been on a bunch of drugs.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
Same outcomes.
Yes. Yeah. And I was just like so angry that they were even recommending that. They medically withdrew me.
Were they like eating disorder treatment or prison?
They did not give me, but they did say, if you don't go to treatment, then you cannot come back to school.
Yikes.
Turns out I wasn't allowed back to school anyways. They were like, please go finish school somewhere else. So I actually got to finish my last few hours at ACC. Which is like unheard of your senior year. They want you to finish your hours your senior year there, but they were just like, you're a liability.
So now that you are an eating disorder advocate now, correct?
Yeah, well, I'm actually an eating disorder therapist now.
She's a
too.
therapist.
But-
She's a therapist.
Yes.
But also when we first started talking, it was because she was doing all this stuff with the eating disorder walk and the NAMI walk and doing that kind of advocacy stuff. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So let's touch a little bit on that. What are some things that you would like people to know about eating disorders that you think they may not?
Yeah.
Well, because, and I'm going to add an addendum to his question because I think there's a lot of addiction therapists who don't understand eating disorders. There's a lot of eating disorder therapists who don't understand addiction.
Yes.
Hence the nutritionist who couldn't figure out what the fuck you were doing.
Yeah.
Right?
Uh-huh.
She just trusted you.
Yeah.
So like you have a really unique perspective as being trained and having the personal experience. So please tell us the things.
Yeah. I think with both, there's this malnourishment in both areas. So with eating disorder, certainly, but also with substance use. Like people aren't really, if you're struggling with substance use, you're probably not living your best life and taking care of like your food issues and like things to properly nourish your body, to hydrate, things like that. One of the biggest misconceptions about eating disorders is that you are underweight. So less than 6% of people are medically diagnosed as being underweight, which is, you know, everyone seems to think that there's this young, white, underweight is the picture of an eating disorder. And that's not the case. More than 50% of people that have an eating disorder struggle with substance use disorder, which is wild.
I had no idea it was that high.
I think it's probably higher. It's just that people aren't really great at screening for these things. And people, like you said, the whack-a-mole thing. So if they're going in for substance use treatment, they're probably going to protect this other part and vice versa. If they're going in for eating disorder, they're going to protect. Because for me, it was really hard doing both at the same time for the whack-a-mole reason, because eating disorders are about emotion regulation when it comes down to it. And so taking away my coping mechanism with substance use, right? I couldn't escape anymore. I had to feel my feelings. And then taking away the other coping mechanism that I have to like not feel my feelings. And I'm raw. I'm just like.
Just all the feelings.
Yeah, all of them. And I feel I'm already a super sensitive person. So now I'm feeling all of my feelings and so intensely. I have no skills to use. And my brain, of course, remembers that, oh, you have these things that can make you feel better quickly. And so it's really challenging to like not go to those things because I know that they work. And skill use takes time, right? And I have to tell my clients, I'm like, I know that you remember these things will help you feel better instantly. And the skill use, we have to practice it because it will work. and long term it will work. These things, other things are not sustainable, right?
Yeah.
So that's a really tricky part.
Oh man.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It is hard. And eating disorder treatment, like if you think about substance use treatment, you are getting a break completely from temptations, from being around your substance. Eating disorder treatment, we're like, yo.
You still have to eat.
Yeah, 6 times a day too. So it's like you're doing all of the therapy and you're having the constant exposures that you're not having in substance use treatment. And if you have a history of substance use, then you tend to have this black and white thinking towards your eating disorder recovery, which really I've derailed me a lot. And I've noticed with my clients that I work with, it tends to derail them because they want to have perfect eating disorder recovery.
Complete abstinence, right?
Yeah, they're
like I purged one time, I fucked up.
Yeah, and then it spirals. They're like, no, it's black and white. I'm either in eating disorder recovery or I'm not. And it's not that way.
Do you deal with overeating as well?
Yeah, so binge eating disorder, I definitely deal with, yeah. I think the thing that I push back on is that substance use and the world at large tends to be fat phobic, and the BMI is trash.
I was going to ask you about the BMI.
Made by a statistician, made to measure populations over time, white men. Right? Like, that's not very helpful. And then insurance comes in and it's like, okay, well, we're going to just arbitrarily decide that this is health and this is not health. That's so wild. And we even use BMI in eating disorder treatment still because insurance requires us to. So not great.
There's things we got to do in substance treatment also just because insurance requires it. But what's interesting, though, is, recovery at large, and we talk about this fairly often on the show, like has started to move towards this kind of gray, like it's not as black and white as it used to be to where, harm reduction, all these different kinds of things. So it's almost like they're kind of coming together in this idea that like recovery and health doesn't need to be perfection.
Right. Which is really cool.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
There's also this social justice component that my clients have that I didn't have that I really love. Like,
we talk more about that, yeah.
I mean, my adolescents, they are able to acknowledge like, oh, that's so fat phobic, or that's so diet culture, which I didn't have that knowledge, and like society at large wasn't really talking about things that were fat phobic and how we've internalized this stigma. I didn't have any of that information. And now it's, all over social media. There's books, podcasts all about it. So
yeah, they've got language for all this stuff that we didn't have language for.
Yeah. And not only that, but they're advocating for change, which is really cool.
Yeah. Everybody has a voice now.
Yeah. Yeah. It is really nice to see.
So we are getting towards kind of running out of time. And I feel like there's still like a bunch of other topics I want to touch on. Like I want you to tell us about like how eating disorder rehab is different from substance rehab, because I know there's all kinds of like they watch you when you eat. And there's like mirrors to make sure you're not hiding shit. Like
we don't do the mirror thing. That's interesting. We do if
have you seen the mirror thing before?
I have not.
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm pretty good at like watching. I do meals with my patients, and I'm pretty good at noticing. Because I have the experience of like, I hid food when I was in treatment. So like, I know what to look for. I know what eating disorder behaviors and rituals people have and the safety behaviors they have around food. So I know how to redirect around it in ways that some people might have to like, it takes a lot for them to learn and to identify. But
it's
I'm like,
I did
the
this. Tech who's in recovery that catches the clients doing shit.
Yeah.
Versus the non-recovery tech who's like, oh, he said he was going to call his mom.
Yeah. And you're like, oh.
I think it's a great opportunity for the listeners. If you have any questions regarding eating disorders, we'll put a link to whatever you want to share and have you back on if we get enough questions. And, because we didn't even scratch the surface here on the things that we could talk about.
I do want to tie a bow in your eating recovery journey, because I know like your substance recovery journey, there was some starts and stops.
Absolutely.
So I'd like to hear about like when you finally got to what you feel now is like a healthy place around that, like what that took or what that entailed.
Yeah. My psychiatrist in treatment, because I worked for the eating disorder treatment center that I went to. I went to one in Denver, and now they have one here in Austin, and I get to be a therapist.
We send y'all people.
Yeah.
Recovery Unplugged some people.
It's really cool to be full circle. And my psychiatrist, when I was in treatment, he told me that my thoughts do not have to become actions. Okay. to a normal person that might be like, yeah, duh. But for me, I was so spontaneous. I'm really, have low harm avoidance and high novelty seeking, which my therapist calls a nightmare. And I'm like, yeah, it kind of is. So just like loving chaos all the time. And he was like, recovery is in the pause. And those two things were like really just like mind blowing for me. I wasn't able to put them into place at that point. I was 24 and I remembered it though. And so it took me 3 years out of like going back and forth. I went to multiple eating disorder treatment centers. I got kicked out of a few before I was able to actually put those into place. And it felt like what happened is I gotten to this point where I just didn't want to be alive anymore. And that is how I actually got to eating disorder treatment the first time. And so I was getting back down to that place. And I was like, I can't go back to treatment again. I've already done this so many times. And I knew I had all the information and I had all the support. My parents were helping support because eating disorder therapists, for so many reasons, a lot of them don't take insurance. And so my parents were helping support that. And I just was like, okay, I've got to white knuckle it. And I don't recommend this to my clients ever. But I was like, for a year, let's just, my treatment team was like, let's just try it for a year. You do the meal plan and do as we say for a year. And I was like, okay, but if I don't feel any better, nothing changes, then I'm going back to this. And they were like, yeah, sure, whatever. And a year into it, I was like, still upset, still not, like body image did not change. I still hated my body. But I was able to like still appreciate life in a different way that I wasn't able to. I wasn't hyper fixated on, oh, I'm eating this. Well, that means that I have to go do this exercise right afterwards. I was able to be a little bit more present. And I noticed the spontaneity that I had before kind of coming back a little bit into my life. And so I decided to keep going on this path. And it was not easy. And there were a lot of, it was not black and white, it's a lot of gray area that you're trying to swim through, like trying to figure out like, okay, am I actually hungry or am I eating because I'm upset? And that was a hard thing for me to understand. Like, does it actually really matter? Then like trying to figure out what am I using this as a coping mechanism? Food is a coping mechanism.
Absolutely.
And it's okay to have it as a coping mechanism. I tell my clients that all the time because I work with binge eating disorder with my adults. And they don't like hearing that. I'm like, we just don't want it to be your only coping mechanism. Because I think back to like the pandemic, I was going to Amy's Ice Cream twice a week. It was like comforting.
That doesn't sound that bad to me.
No.
Right. It was comforting and nostalgic to me. And I knew that I was using it as a coping mechanism because I was so isolated. I was living alone. I was doing virtual work. I didn't see people or talk to another person in person for like weeks at a time. Yeah. So Amy's was like the one place where I got to see people and they even got to know my order and like recognize me with my mask on. I was like, I have reached peak Austin.
Okay, so I need to get some free professional advice here. So I am, and tell me if this is a common thing. Mm-hmm. Throughout the day, I am super well behaved as far as the things that I eat. Mm-hmm. And
I know where this is going.
I will work out, I will eat all day and maybe have a shake. At the end of
the night?
Not even at the end of the night. I will fall asleep. Wake back up, go, and just be like, I'm just going to get a Topo Chico. Next thing, I'm eating the shredded cheese. I'm eating everything in the fucking refrigerator.
Okay, same question.
Okay.
I mean, no, because I'm like, I got my protein shake. I got my greens today. I got, I've been watching the carbs all day.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
God forbid Gabby gets some Thin Mints or Girl Scout cookies, and I see those in the freezer like entire sleeve easily.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll dip it in queso.
Help us.
Yeah. Okay. So there is something that's called night eating syndrome, which is not what I think that y'all have. It's a circadian rhythm discrepancy, which usually we see with like shift workers, which is again, not what I think that y'all have. What I think might be happening is that y'all aren't eating enough throughout the day. So the biggest predictor of binging is restriction. Oh. So when I see clients doing that, it's either they're depriving themselves of like, say it is cheese that they're binging on. It's like, well, are you allowing yourself to eat cheese? And usually it's like cakes or donuts or things like that they end up binging on. And I'm like, is that a food that you've told yourself is a no food?
Yeah, I mean, if I had it in the house, I would binge on it.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that if we go into deprivation mindset when we're told that we can't have something, we then end up put it on a pedestal.
It's like feast or famine kind of thing.
Yes, absolutely.
So I should go get a cake right now for lunch, and then later I'll be okay.
I wouldn't say like eating the whole thing for lunch, but I do.
That's what I heard. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So,
anyway, thanks for coming up.
one of the things that we do is exposure response prevention. And so with like my binge food was peanut butter. And so my treatment center, they had me eating peanut butter at almost every meal. And it was exhausting, but it taught me that I could eat this normally, that it didn't have to be on a pedestal, that it's just like a normal food. So it desensitized it for me.
Okay.
And having it at home, though, made it challenging because I did mess up a few times. And in my head, I was like, oh, well, that shows that I'm addicted to it. But that's not what was happening.
Relapse. I got to pick up a newcomer chick.
Yeah. But what really was happening is that I just have to like, you have to continue to teach your brain that this is something that's normal.
Oh, got a rapid five. All
Yeah.
right. Yeah, we got a rapid fire. All right, I guess it's
Rapid fire question time.
It's rapid fire question time.
Okay. I'm going to start off with a classic rapid fire question. I hope it's not insensitive, but it's a classic one we do. I'm sorry. She talked about ice cream first.
Okay.
Ben and Jerry's comes to you and they want to make a Nicky flavor Ben and Jerry's.
Mm-hmm.
What do you call it and what do you put in it?
I say, let's go to Amy's Ice Cream, and we're getting the Oreo, which is the Mexican vanilla with Oreos combined. That is what we're doing.
And what do you
Sorry,
call
Ben
it?
and Jerry's. I love Amy's Ice Cream only.
I love it.
I literally refuse to go to any other ice cream.
That is very
Maybe
awesome.
we get a sponsorship out of this one. We'll send to the
We'll change
info
the
at
question. We'll change the
Amy's.
question.
Yeah. Okay.
Stephen Odom likes, what is it, Jenny's?
Yeah.
And I was like, no, dude, I can't even.
Fuck outta here.
Yeah, I can't
I'm
even.
an
It's
A-
right across the street from Amy's on South Congress.
Yeah. Right.
Get out of here.
Get out of here.
Amy's.
You'll cross the street
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Amy's
without
only.
a crosswalk.
Yeah, I might get hit by a car, but Amy's.
Okay, so you're out doing your thing, either driving at the store. What is one thing that somebody can do to bring angry Nicky back?
Make a comment about somebody else's body or food choices. That will pretty much set me off, especially if it's towards a child or if they're making comments about their body in front of their kid. Like, ugh. Yeah, gets me.
All right. What is your go-to music for when you're having a rough day? What's your comfort music?
Oh my God. Okay. Cursive. And I was one of the top 100 listeners. I listened to it was disgusting. I don't remember the hours, but a lot of cursive.
So it's a deceptive stat. There's only 100 people who
That's
listen to
what somebody
cursive.
told me.
Yeah. Cursive is a pretty deep cut. Yeah.
And I even tagged Cursive and Tim Casher, the lead singer, in the story I posted on Instagram, and he saw it. And I was like, fangirling. Yeah. I don't listen to music past high school. Like, I just got stuck
Arrested
in this high
Development
school
with their,
situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Time travel vacation. You go anywhere, anytime period, where and when.
Wow. I would really love to go to Iran. I don't know what time period. Maybe when my mom was a kid, so I can see what it was like for her growing up, because I only have her.
Is that like the 70s, 60s?
She was there in the 60s, yeah.
Oh, man. All my questions are food related.
It's okay. I love food. Go ahead.
Okay. You can only pick one for the rest of your life. Pizza or tacos?
Ooh, tacos.
Nice.
I'm lactose intolerant.
That's
so
the right
it's
answer.
a little tough, yeah. Taco deli, doña sauce on anything. Yeah, for sure.
All day.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Last thing. We told you we'd have this moment
Yeah,
where it's your opportunity, whatever you want to plug, if you want to leave a message for our viewers,
Yeah.
whatever you want to do.
Yeah. You don't have to have a diagnosis of an eating disorder to improve your relationship with food or body. There's tons of free support groups out there. I run one for adults. You can find it on my website.
What's your website?
umbrellapsychotherapy.com. I'm running an 8-week adolescent skills group starting in February for ages 13 and 18, which I didn't think adolescents were going to be my jam, and they are. I really love working with the families and the kids, and I love adults. Substance use and eating disorder, like if they have those two combined, I'm like, yes, this is my perfect client.
It's your unicorn right there.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. It's, because some people don't want to work with eating disorders because they're like, oh, it's so hard. And I'm like, yes, but I know that recovery is possible. I have been there. I have done it. I know how hard it is. And I get to hold that hope of recovery for them until they believe it for themselves, which is a magical feeling.
Love it. Well, thank you again for taking the time out today to come talk to us and to all our loyal listeners. Thank you for watching and listening. Don't forget to like, follow, share, subscribe, leave comments, tell your friends.
Ask questions.
Yeah. We lost a lot of the interaction when we got off of the Facebook. So maybe start throwing them on the Spotify or whatever. And as we like to say here on Talksicology, there's 1,000 ways in and 1,000 ways out.
And we always make eye contact when
and
we
we
do it.
hope you find yours.
That was really romantic.